All right, so it's live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Goals Driven Life YouTube channel. And I'm going to talk to my special guest, Rajesh Setty, for the second time on my channel. Rajesh doesn't need an introduction, but I will still do it. I'm sure there are many people who are watching this and meeting Rajesh for the first time. So, Rajesh is an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, actually, author and teacher based in Silicon Valley. His latest startup is called Oddwiser, which features several thousand original micro podcasts from world class experts available at a push of a button. He has co founded several other technology startups such as Mentor Cloud and Jiffle Now. Rajesh has written and published 16 books so far, with his first book published at the age of 13. Over the last few years, he has shared over 2,400 napkin insights. Napkininsights.com. You must check that out. That is phenomenal. Rajesh is an award winning teacher at the Founder Institute, where he has helped over 1,000 first time entrepreneurs to bring their ideas to life. And why do I have him for the second time? We are going to talk to him about his latest book, 6 Feet World: How to Reimagine the Future in Disruptive Times. And the book is also written in a disruptive fashion because he got to write this during the lockdown time, and he turned around the book at a very, very short time. And that talks a lot about his discipline and his sense of getting things done. I read his book end to end. I just finished it today, and I can tell you that knowing Rajesh for a while now, he has put in the book exactly what he practices. And I'm blessed to have him in my life, to have ready access to somebody as extraordinary human being as Rajesh. And there's no exaggeration there. While I know I have ready access to him, I always am acutely aware of his of not misusing his time. So most of my interactions are through short calls and messages. But I am rubbing my hands with glee today because I'm going to have him like for the next hour or so, 45 to 50 minutes or so, and I have access to ask him and talk to him. As I said, Rajesh possesses a wide wealth of knowledge, and that I often find myself profusely taking notes when I speak to him. And I urge all my listeners who are listening to this to benefit from this interview and take as much notes as possible. So, Rajesh, in this interview, I will welcome to the channel, Rajesh. The
I think, Ravi, the best part of the interview is already over. Because now if we stop, right, then the people will leave at a high note because it will be mystery. I think he must be smart. But then when I start speaking, they might say, oh my God, he may not be that smart after all. So we might as well end the live broadcast and say, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your attention. Like that. How about that?
So Rajesh just demonstrated his other virtue, which is his modesty. So Rajesh, the reason I just told the reason why you are here. So what I'm going to do is, I finished the book end to end. Of course, I cannot reveal the entire book, but I have picked the parts of the book that caught my fancy, and I'm going to ask questions from there. So to begin with, Rajesh, help us understand the genesis of the book and how and when the first seed of the idea was formed, because the entire COVID-19 Corona situation was all of a sudden, right? How did the idea of the book come to your mind, and what made you write the book?
Yeah, see what happened. As you know, I was right in the middle of finishing my other book called Unshaken, right? So, which
Okay.
you have read. So, I
Yeah.
was almost ready, and then the last thing that was required was getting the foreword by one of my favorite people. So, I was working on that. And then, meanwhile, the COVID-19 happened. And then, I come from a linguistic philosophy background. So, I'm very curious about how people describe things. Because when you define and describe something or someone, it will influence the way you interact or you make an assessment about what actions you take and everything. And I found that this was such an unprecedented phenomenon that everybody agrees, but they were all labeling it wrong. When I say, I use the word very careful because wrong is a very strong word, but I know that they were labeling it wrong. It's because I saw what happened in some of the major mishaps in history, like Black Fever, Spanish flu, World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, and everything had sort of an elastic experience. Something bad happened, and things changed in an elastic fashion. And when it came back, it did not come back to the original, but something different was there, but it was not very much different.
Right.
So I was thinking, this time it will be different. I got a clue from the 9/11,
Mhm.
and I saw that in 9/11, before 9/11, the security at the airports and all those, not very much, right?
Right.
So now we are used to the extreme scrutiny. The pilots close their doors and lock themselves, all those things. And if a new kid that is born after this restrictions, you ask him, you tell him that earlier we used to go to the cockpit and we could have a conversation with pilots. They will say, "No, you are telling a lie."
Right.
That would not be possible because now we are used to it. So the change was no longer elastic; it was permanent.
Got it.
What was the difference? The difference was just in 9/11 case, something changed. The change was that there was a seed of doubt in everybody's mind that maybe one of us is a terrorist. Maybe one of us may be a terrorist. So we had to be careful. So there was a small rupture in the interpersonal trust fabric between people. Now that got extended even bigger time now, because now even an innocent person could be an asymptomatic carrier of COVID. Now the interpersonal trust fabric is completely broken, like completely sheared away. When such a thing happens, you cannot describe the phenomenon in any words that is currently in the dictionary, because anytime you use a word, there is a meaning attached to it. You try to use the same word, then people will say, okay, I know what it is. If it's like a mega recession or a mega depression, people say, I think we may not know it, but they can imagine it. So I saw what Nicholas Nassim Taleb did when 9/11 happened. He coined a new word called the black swan. So black swan is something that is unprecedented. Nobody could expect it before it happened. After it happened, it was easily explainable. So I extended Taleb's analogy, and I call it a black baby event, which means that baby is a group of swans, which means in my theory or hypothesis, this is equivalent of 100 black swan events all happening all across the globe. Why I did this is, unless I define it right, people will not see the magnitude of the problem. So, and that's when I said I'll write a short blog post, and I'm a chronic like writing is not my passion; it's an obsession. So what happened? The short blog post is said, "Oh no, I cannot say this." So I had to do that. What about this? They had to prepare like that, and then I said, "Okay, maybe I'll write a big Medium article." So and then I started writing, and then long story short, it became a book.
That's amazing. Yeah, you said there has, every time when we see any new phenomena, we try to compare it with our past phenomena, isn't it? We would say
Right.
this is like this, so there is
Yeah.
no template to compare, and this is a completely new phenomenon that has got no precedent, and that's exactly why mankind needed to make sense of this chaos. And thank you for taking that leadership role in trying to make sense of what it was, and what a phenomenal read it has been. So my next question is, before we talk about the concepts of the book, I was very fascinated by something unique that I've never found it in any book, and that you have actually created a scorecard, an ROI calculator, return on investment calculator for every chapter, and then you have added the ROIs for all the chapters to make a summation of the ROI. Could you share that, please? That was because I was quite fascinated by that idea.
Yeah, most of the time I try to solve my own problems, which is basically I read a book and I always think, what did I get out of this book?
Right.
And then I said, it's easy to judge other people, Ravi. Basically, I got this book, what did I get out of it? And then it's difficult to point at yourself and say, what about me? I'm also writing a book. So I said, what is the real investment when somebody reads this book? There are only three parts to it. One is the price they pay for the book on Kindle or in physical copy or anything. When I looked at it, it is really, really small part of what it is, because the amount of time they put in to read the book, you add an hourly rate, let's say they spend 8 hours, it's $100 hourly rate minimum, it's $800. then
Right.
there's an opportunity cost. The same amount of time they could have spent to earn that money, right? So then I said, that's price to they paid the book, the time they took into hourly rate times two, because the opportunity cost has to be added. So
Right.
easily, if somebody is reading my book, I can say that they're investing about $1,625. $25 for the book, $800 for the time spent, and $800 of opportunity cost. So as soon as I see it, I become more responsible, right? So immediately I say, oh my God, I have to give return not for $25, but I have to give return for $1,625. That becomes my responsibility. Then I started saying there are two ways they can get return on investment. One is they apply the concept in their own life. That's one. Second, they share this with a friend and apply them in their life or in their work. So
Right.
you start every chapter, it'll force me, forget about the reader, it'll force me to say, I need to provide value in every single chapter. There is no room for fluff.
Right.
So that's why I created the ROI calculator. So mostly as a check for me more than benefit for the reader.
No, that's amazing. That's actually you are taking utmost responsibility to deliver value for every chapter, not just the book. It's not an ROI for the book. You have raised the bar that you want to deliver value for every chapter, and that was quite fascinating. And that you are taking responsibility for the time a reader gives you, and that's fascinating. I think all authors should take that responsibility. The moment you think like that, you become more obliged to add more value to what you present in the book. So thank you.
100%, and that's why even in the chapters, I went to Medium and I found out how they calculate the 3-minute read, 5-minute read, and everything. So
Oh, great.
I just went back and said, I really want to know how much time they spend on this. And I used the same calculations that Medium uses and put the 3-minute, 5-minute reads. Every chapter will have how many minutes it takes to read.
And that little tweak, just like it's like anxiety, right? Whenever you open a new chapter, you do not know how big the chapter is.
Yes.
The adding a number of minutes it will take to read the chapter just prepares you for finishing the chapter. So these little things make it even more special. So thank you.
Very
So we when we began, we talked about how unprecedented it is, but I just want to know the magnitude of this phenomenon. And you spelled out very interestingly. You said that BC from today would not mean before Christ, but it would mean before COVID. Why do you say so? Why do you see that this phenomenon is, of course, it's unprecedented, but what makes you think that the scale of change or the consequence it is going to have post-COVID era is going to be big?
Yeah, this is where I hope I'm wrong, Ravi. This is one of those things that I say, you wish you are wrong, isn't it? But I don't think I'm wrong. So I have a feeling that the way the world operates, the operating system of the world will change because of this doubt that has come into minds, the social distancing or anything, right? And then there is never going to be a complete proof that this problem is no longer there, because something today it's COVID, tomorrow who knows what it is. But the fact that this might happen, that something like this might happen, will force people to a little bit more alert, right? And once that happens, the way the worldviews will change. Once the worldviews will change, it's a different world altogether, because our worldviews are the lens through which we see the world. And once that changes, we know, because first of all, we both know that there is no reality. It's all made up anyway. So when we are making up things, what we use as a tool is our worldviews. Now the worldviews has changed. We are making up different worlds for ourselves.
Right.
So that's why it's BC for me is before COVID, and anything after that is a whole new world. The good news, I always say, Ravi, is that nothing is right or wrong. It's just that our reluctance to adapt to it that causes the frustration.
That's correct.
Suppose, let's say we both are from a different planet and we're just dropped into this planet now. We don't know how it was before COVID. We're not going to judge it, isn't it? The
Right.
problem comes when we look for the future in nostalgia.
That's correct. That's correct. And it's a very good segue to my next question. And I was very fascinated by your analogy of this entire scenario that you related to a game. That, for example, a bunch of friends are playing chessboard, and then they are asked to leave the building. For some reason, they come back to resume the game, and it's not chess anymore. It's another game, say a Go game board, and then you are forced to play a different game which you
Yeah.
are not familiar with. You might have been really, really good player in the old game, but you have been given this new set of rules and a complete new game to play. So, what are some of the ways that you think one could deal with navigating a completely new game?
So first step, Ravi, is to accept it, because the problem comes with accepting that we have to play a new game. It all starts there. Like, for example, you are in Germany, you drive left, right? I'm assuming that you are driving left.
That's
The
correct.
moment you come to the United States, we drive on the right. You
That's
cannot
correct.
say right is wrong, and we will say left is wrong, isn't it?
That's
It is
correct.
what it is. Like, we cannot say, no, this should be wrong. I'm going to drive on the left. We'll crash. And if I go there and say, no, no, these German people, they are doing it wrong. I'll drive on the left. It just is nuisance.
Right.
So first step is to accept it. Like, if we don't accept it, then there is no game already, isn't it? You can keep fighting, but like, you come from Germany to United States and you say, I'm going to protest, because this is wrong. You can do whatever you want. They're not going to change the way they operate because you are unhappy about it. So half the problem is in our acceptance, isn't it? People say change is hard. I say change is easy, as long as you expect it from somebody else, especially your spouse.
Right.
So you expect change from other people, but you make it hard on yourself, saying that, we are creatures of habit. What can we say, right? So we have been doing something and we want to continue to do the same thing exactly the way we have been doing it. So that's why I like the game of Go. It's a very sort of agile way of living and working and thinking and everything, because you never know what the opponent does, right? So there is a big board, and then the opponent may want the right, or the opponent may want the left of the board. You cannot say, Ravi, if we are playing with you cannot say, I was hoping that you will give me the right side of the board. You did it wrong. You said, no, I cannot say. You just move, and then he says, okay, you are going there, I'll go here. Like that. That's what life is.
Right. So we have an active follower who is commenting, and she's Pranita Paradkar. She's a friend of mine, and she said that Rajesh seems to be so humble. Indeed, our reluctance breeds frustration. So she's quoting your sentence, and she's laughing at your spouse analogy. So yeah, so somebody is keenly. So the stream worked. So guys, all of you who are listening to us live, it was Rajesh's last minute idea to go live. I was not planning to go live, but planning is never exciting. This was exciting that so many people are able to listen to us live, and thank you for your engagement. So Rajesh, my next question is something that I again found out in one of your chapters, which says playing a long game is the insurance against playing the wrong game. I'm fascinated by your play of words. That's your strength. Other than the beautiful play of words, what is the deeper meaning there?
Yeah. Is this there an insight, or is it nonsense? Is your real question. So let's address that, right?
I didn't mean.
So what happens is, I always look at, let's talk about the long game first. Okay. So when I meet anyone in life, there are many ways I can think about that relationship. One is, I can just think, what can I get out of this person? That's the lowest possible way you can think, right? Because it becomes pure transaction. And it's not like you don't do it. You go to a gas station, and then you are not saying, okay, let me build a lifetime relationship with the cashier. No, you just say you want to get some bread or something. You say, can I please get some bread? So there are places where you do it because otherwise it will be super complicated, isn't it? But when you meet somebody personally or professionally, there are the temporal aspect will determine how you look at the relationship. Suppose I say I want a long-term relationship with Rob, then I look at Rob very differently. Or if I say I want a very long-term relationship with Rob, I look at him very differently again. Long-term, very long-term. Long-term maybe 3 years, very long-term maybe 15 years. If I say, with Rob, I want to have a lifetime relationship, then you will change the way you look at Rob completely, because you will not be perturbed by here and there small nuances that Rob has. You just, because it's a lifetime relationship.
Right.
That for me is the long game. Now, whenever you are playing a long game, so there may be a few places where you take a shortcut or anything. That's the wrong game. But as long as you are playing multiple long games, the long game acts as an insurance for the wrong game, because you will recover from it. But if you are never playing a long game, the moment you play a wrong game, you are walking towards the cliff. So first of all, you should never play a wrong game. Just in case you do, the long games provide that insurance cover for you. That's what I was trying to say.
So this is one thing that I've learned from you always, that you're always for long-term relationships. You're not transactional at all. You give generously without expecting anything in return, because you think the relationship should be cultivated for a long, long time. And I've seen that. Give us some examples of how it has benefited, how this kind of attitude has benefited in the in the past for you, and how do you think this is going to benefit for people who are going to see themselves in post-COVID era?
See, first of all, well, let's look at it this way. So while I don't worry about whether I will get something back or anything, I believe in God. The way I look at things is, there is an accounting system out there somewhere, and whatever it's due to me, it's going to come. Whatever it's not due to me, it's not going to come. So I don't have to worry about did it come or not, because it's extra effort. Like it's the demon dancing inside my brain. It's useless demon. It's just coming in the way of me doing my things, right? So let's take about an example. Like, how in the world it's possible for me to write this book? My health situation. It's not like I can write fast, right? So how can I write? I mean, I have to sometimes dictate, convert it into words, and then it all becomes a mess. There's a lot of problems. For me to finish this book, it's a Herculean task, because the situation. Not many people know it, but it's like extra effort is required, unless I get help from many, 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 many people at a moment's notice.
Got it.
Isn't it? So if I can do that, if I can do it, I know everybody can do it. So that's why it works. It's just that when people who are listening to it is, let me test it. No, you cannot test it now, because it's long-term relationships. It's like saying, can I run a marathon? Let me try it if I do it in the next 5 minutes. No, sir, it will take 26.2 miles. It takes a long time. So you cannot test it. So the only way you will test it is to have the faith that it works, because it does.
And then learn from people who have already tested it, which is people from people like you. Excellent.
Yeah. Here is the thing, Ravi. So people talk about modeling other people. So they cannot generally model people from outside. They have to get into their inner circle. Only then they can model, because what you see outside is the manifestations of their mechanics.
Got it.
Isn't it? You don't know what is happening. Suppose you want to model someone who is a really amazing networking person, relationship builder, and say, let me watch this person, how he acts.
Right.
So you come in, and let's say it was pre-COVID. You will meet a few friends, you'll start giving a hug, warm hug and everything. And you can think, this person is a hugger. All I have to do build long-term relationships, I have to hug people. Maybe it's right. But what did he do between the meetings? What was he thinking about the well-being of the other person? Was he proactively adding value? How many email exchanges happened? How many text messages happened? How many introductions were made between the two people? that is not visible.
Right.
So I always tell people it takes, you have to pay a price to get into the inner circle of people so that you can actually see how they think,
Mm.
not even how they act, how do they think about this situation.
Right.
If you can model that, then everything is a side effect of else is a side effect.
Got it. Thank you. You have a chapter in your book titled Radical Reinvention is Not a Luxury but a Necessity.
Yeah,
Uh, the world is looking for different offers from you and not a better than before version of what you're already bringing. Now,
yeah.
I know the importance. Most people know the importance of reinvention and radical reinvention, the need for it, but not many people are able to reinvent themselves. So, what are some of your ideas on or best practices that somebody can? Radical reinvention is the next level, right? So even to reinvent mildly is not somebody, not everybody is comfortable with. So, what are some of your ideas?
See, first thing, let's look at why it is difficult. So I'll tell you, this problem happens for very smart people. So if you're not very, very smart, you don't have that problem. You just give up whatever you are doing, you just do something else. If you're very smart, then what you're smart in not in everything, right? So you're smart in one or two things. Now, whenever you reinvent, that means you may change the way you deliver value. Now you have to do something where you're an amateur in the area that you are very, very good at. You are your standards are very high, so you just know how to deliver value and everything. So you are used to the positive feedback that you are getting from the world, that you are so smart, you are so amazing, you are an accomplished person, you're a rock star, whatever it is. But now in the new world, let's say you want to completely, let's say some really smart travel agent was doing very, very well at relationships and everything.
Right.
And suddenly this whole travel, nobody is traveling. Like I have a friend, I won't go into the names. So they have 215,000 uh, serviced apartments in their network.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 30 days, how many were booked, Ravi?
None.
Zero.
Mm.
Now, what do you do with the business? So you have to reinvent.
Right.
Now, if you are very good at something, in that something, it's easier to become better. In that something new, it is difficult because you are an amateur and you don't get the quality of results you are getting in the previous space.
That's correct.
So the first step in reinvention is to unlearn everything from the past, and especially in terms of the standards that you set for yourself in your previous space, because you
Right.
cannot, right? It's like you are an amazing tennis player, and then something happens and the government bans playing tennis. If you
Right.
play tennis, you're going to be put in jail. Now they say, okay, you have to play hockey or
Right.
something. No, you cannot expect the standard of excellence as if you are playing a tennis match.
Right.
So you have to start as if you're starting from new, and then you should be really okay with the mediocre results that you will get in the initial few times.
Right.
And you should not be worried about, people will start laughing at me. Okay, but they're not paying the bills, right?
Mhm.
Let them laugh. It's good to entertain people sometimes. That's how I say it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is for your survival, not
Yeah.
just but to thrive. And you will have to, if it's a new game, you'll have to start from somewhere.
Yeah, I think there are two of the experts in Advisor. They both said the same thing. I think it's Shirley MacLaine was the first person who said it. When you are 20, you are always worried about what the world is thinking about you, right?
Mm.
And then when you are 40, you say, you know what, I don't care what the world thinks about me.
Mhm.
And when you're 60, you realize that they were never thinking about you anyway.
That's
So
good.
they are all busy with their own stuff. They don't have time to think about you. But you are only worried that, oh, is my shoes good? Is my dress good? They are thinking exactly, see, are my shoes good? Are my dress good? It's like a chain reaction.
Yeah. So I'm actually picking parts of your book. The other thing that I've always been fascinated and I got an opportunity to ask today is about your to think list.
Yes.
Uh, this morning I shared this with somebody as well. So you have a personal practice for deep thinking, deep level thinking, and you in the book you distinguish between surface level thinking and deep level thinking. And your practice of deep level thinking is using two think list.
Yes.
So I would like to know from you what is a two think list and how can it benefit individuals?
The to think list is in simple form is a list of things that you want to think about, just like a to do list is a list of things that you want to do something about.
Mhm.
So there is years ago, probably more than 10 years ago, I started this practice. And if I have to say every single thing that I have done in my life, if I have to give credit to one, it is to this practice. If I drop everything else, I know I can come back strong again if I just keep this practice up. Why? Because the society is overstimulated. Like, for example, we are always connected and we talk as if it's a good thing. It is, but not always. When you are connected, what happens? You are easily allowing yourself to be interrupted, isn't it? So, whenever in deep thinking, you don't want to be interrupted. Otherwise, it's like shallow thinking, spotty, and all those things. So, my practice is very simple. Suppose you tell me something, we are talking about it, and let me ask you, Ravi, what was the most uh, important book you read in the last 30 days? What would it be?
Indistractable.
Indistractable. And you will say, Ravi, what did you like more about it? What was something that touched you?
Indistractable is how to give priority and time to nurturing relationship was the most important from that
Right.
book.
So anyway, Neer is our dear friend, so he'll be happy that we are talking about it. In fact, Neer spoke to Sumuk's classmates in Babson College, and they were all super excited about it.
Um,
So
yeah.
I have read the book, but suppose let's say I had not read the book.
Mhm.
The moment you said it, I will say indistractable. I have to think about the indistractable. So I'll put it as to think list, because before even Neer's book, I want to think about it a little bit more. What is my opinion about it? Of course, Neer is deep thinker. So even before I read this, what I will do is during my two think times, which is twice a week that I have, it's 90-minute periods, where I'll say indistractable. What is about distraction? I don't have a computer, I have only a pen and a paper. I start writing whatever I like. Why I don't have a computer? Because it's the ultimate distraction machine, isn't it? I cannot think about indistractable sitting in front of a ultimate distraction machine, right? So now, once I have that, I have formed an opinion based on my thinking. When I read Neer's book, it will be much richer rather than saying, oh, I'll pick up and start reading. So that's one way. Or I have independent thinking. That's why Elon Musk and all those people, they say, start with the first principles, right?
Right.
Whenever you're faced with a problem, you start first, go to the first principles.
That's
Like you have an opinion. It may be wrong, but have an opinion. You stand for something. So when COVID-19 happened and I wanted to write this book, this is what I did. I just said, for the next all my two think sessions, I'm going to think about the impact of COVID-19. And usually the two think sessions happen after my yoga and meditation. And there's a period of time that it's clean because mind is calm, and then it's a pristine environment inside my brain, so it makes it super nice to think.
Is there a structure to how you think? Is it a problem and then you want to arrive at a creative solution? Is it how a successful to think session should look like when you have arrived at solutions?
Usually it's like a mind map, Ravi. So basically you say impact of COVID-19, I start writing like tentacles for a mind map, and then I start going. Sometimes it goes somewhere.
Right.
Sometimes, Ravi, it just is useless because you say I like this. The next day I look at it and say nonsense. But that was what was going on in my head. But most of the time, you come up with things that you would never have come up with shallow thinking.
Right. That's correct. And how do you pick topics for your to think list?
Usually in conversations like this, so you will say something and I will say, I didn't think on those lines. So I'll
Right.
write down there. Right. I use Evernote, so
Right.
I just put it in my to think list in the Evernote, and
Right.
then I clean it up. Sometimes some of those things that may not be of interest, like I'm not interested in politics,
Right.
so you can ask me to think about anything. I'll just for the sake of it, I might think, and that's the only time I'll think about it,
Got
right?
it.
Because I rarely am interested in things that are totally outside of my control
That's correct.
because I don't know what to do with it.
That's correct. I mean, most people think, but they do not think with giving themselves dedicated and undistracted time. They will think in shower, maybe while having brush, or maybe while cooking. But I don't think that is effective. And also, most people think reactively whenever there is a situation, circumstances, or crisis. They think, but the kind of thinking that you are talking, this is proactive thinking,
Correct.
uh, and then you come up, and then it is more powerful because it gives you on keeps you on a pedestal. Then you can drive and take charge of your life, isn't it? So
It's very important that you start this process. I'll tell you, if somebody is wanting to start this process, they will struggle with it for the first 2 3 times because they are not used to seeing a blank screen or blank anything, right?
blanket.
They just want something to be there. You
Right.
cannot try this if you're now anyway nobody is going to the office. But if you go to the office and say one day you just sit there, do nothing,
Mm.
and then if somebody asks, "Hey Ravi, what's happening?" He said, "I know nothing. I'm just thinking." And then the next person comes and says, "Hey Ravi, is everything okay?" "No, I'm thinking." And then they both will go to the water cooler and say something is wrong with Ravi, man. So he's thinking. I don't know, but he's not doing anything. So people are not used to it, right? So, but the goal is not to convince anyone about that practice. By the time they're in the third or fourth session, they will be addicted to it
Is it?
because they say, "I got something that I've never experienced." Because ask people, was there a course on thinking? No.
Right.
Is thinking important? Yes. Then how in the world was there no course on thinking?
Right. Excellent. This was the most powerful bit also for me. Very fascinated, and I have begun to like. I've added a slot tomorrow on Sunday for 60 minutes of thinking. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, the first time you can be rest assured that you will say, "What should I do? What am I going to?" It's like I want to do something. Especially this is again a problem for very smart people because they want to do something. They
Right.
want to get to. I want to do. Immediately they say, "Oh, I got an idea. Let me go to the computer." No, the goal is it's only 60 minutes, right? It's not like there's like a torture chamber of some kind. So you just live through it, and you'll thank me later.
Thank you. The other chapter of your book says about telling better stories, and this
Yes.
is something that I've heard from time immemorial. Read so many books about tell good stories, but I've never been able to practically and tangibly see what does good storytelling mean. So you said that all else being equal, the person who tells better stories will always win. Help us
Yes.
understand this. How can you frame better stories? How can you tell better stories?
See, I will use an example. It's like a joke kind of thing, but it's used every now and then as to how people look at things, how look at the world. Right? There are two salespeople who are sent to an island. They both are shoe salespeople, and then one of them calls the office back and says, just get me out of here. Nobody wears shoes here. And then the same person calls the office and says, "Oh, thank God, man, you gave me the biggest opportunity of my life. Nobody wears shoes here." So you look at the story that they're telling to each, it's the same situation. Two people look at the story differently, isn't it? So the stories make a big difference. In fact, I use one more example. There was one company that did something ridiculously odd, but they made a lot of money when they were making money. It was a company was called Height Max, and
Mm,
you can search on it and Wikipedia. You will see their whole story.
right.
Their story their product messaging was, your children should be tall. Give this whatever tonic or the tablets or whatever, the height max pill or anything, your children will go taller than where how they would have been.
Right.
That's the story. Now look at the mom who is looking at this, and the mom wants her children to be tall. And now the story comes that, okay, if I give this pill, my son or daughter who would have been 5 feet will be 5.5 feet or 6 feet, whatever it is.
Right.
How in the world will you prove it? And it's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, you had to, if let's say the daughter was Natasha, she has to clone Natasha, and then we have to have Natasha 1 and Natasha 2. Natasha 1 gets the height max, Natasha 2 does not get the height max. We have to see which one will grow taller, Natasha 1 or Natasha 2. It's
Right.
just so silly. But however silly it was, just based on the story, they made millions of dollars before they were shut down.
Right.
I give these examples because you see the power of stories when you see unbelievably expensive or exorbitantly pricey items being sold, because
Right.
all they have is a story, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, think about buying a wristwatch. You can buy a wristwatch for like $10, or you can pay 100,000 or more.
Premium. Yeah.
It is definitely not because you want to. You will see a different time if you see the watch, wristwatch, which where you paid 100,000. It is the same time because sun rises in the east, sunsets in the west, and it's exactly the same time.
Yeah.
But the story they tell to the person is, they make it a, a, a fashion statement or a statement of like their societal standing, or they say, if I wear this watch, I walk into a room, I don't have to tell how rich I am. They look at the watch, they know exactly. They already know if this person can buy a watch for 250,000, they must be really, really rich. It's like
Yeah.
a statement that they want to make. It's no longer a watch.
Got
The
it.
watch happens to be the vehicle to make them feel that their status is upgraded.
I completely get that. I also see this relevant in getting interviewed for job opportunities. Two candidates with similar credentials, but one guy is able to weave a better story of his career graph than the other, and he bags the role with a premium salary. It's all about how you weave your story and how you sell it.
The best way you can get a job is to tell a story about what you can do, what possibilities you can create for them with you in the picture, and then make them want you in the past.
In the
That's,
past.
yeah. They should say, "Oh, Ravi, I should have had Ravi before. Look, my life, my work would have been different." So, not your career graph, because it's all good, but their career graph in the future, how it will be impacted because you are in their life. Because
Got it.
ultimately, your boss who wants to hire you, they are also thinking, how can I grow? Isn't it? If they think that by
Right.
having you in their team, their own growth will get accelerated, then they want you in their past.
That's correct. That's correct. Related to this is my next question, and which says that you should learn to deliver results in advance. And this is quite radical, actually. How can somebody deliver results in advance before being present to a person live?
Yeah. It's since, for example, there are so many things that we are doing. I mean, take this book, right? So when we launched this book in sixfoot.world, we gave away 3 chapters.
Uh-huh.
Now they're not buying the book, but they already got 3 chapters. And my goal is to, and in fact, there is some persuasion skills that my friend, I think you also know him, Parsifal, did. What did he do? He said, read chapter 1, 2, and 3 for free. You try to read chapter 1, it says there's 4 chapters. But they said 3 chapters. Now there are 4 chapters. It's
Ah,
by design, right?
I,
They will say there is some generosity built in, and there is some surprise, positive surprise built in. So it's like delivering results in advance. In fact, the way I am thinking the whole, positioning the whole book and thinking through in my own head is that act of writing and publishing this book in the lockdown should already be a story that will say, if he can do it with all the limitations that I have, if I can do it, if he can do it, I can also do it. It's the the story of the book coming along should already be a story that should make people say, you know what, this can be done, isn't it? That's the results in advance. Suppose I'll give a few more examples. Suppose you are a salesperson, you are looking for a job,
Right.
and if you know that this company would benefit from talking to somebody that you know, because that somebody you know is a prospect for this company, you start by introducing them. Why wait until you get the job? You call the CEO and you say that, hey, I'm Bob, and I saw that you're doing this, and I thought my friend Roger may be interested in this. Shall I make a connection? And who in the world will say no? I'm good. I'm not looking for new sales. They will say yes, and then then you already delivered results in advance. Then you stand out compared to other people who will all they'll say is, "Look what I can do. Look what I can do." When you're already shown by doing something.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. The power of taking initiative and adding value before they expect is where you can actually create an impression for life.
And in fact, you do it not because you'll get something. You do it because you get better at doing it, right? So basically, it's like this, Ravi. Anything that you learn it in a conceptual level. The value is extracted when it is applied at a contextual level.
Right.
Isn't it? So a concept to contextual adaptation to creating value is a cycle of that has to be repeated again and again and again and again and again. Only then you become a master at it.
It's all about habits. No? Even excellence is an habit. I mean, I was going gaga about your speed of execution. I don't think you achieved this speed of execution just like this. You have built this habit for years, all throughout your life, isn't it? And that's how you.
I am in some sort of a hurry to do some really small thing very quickly. So I'm not worried about the big thing at all. I never think about the whole book ever.
Uh-huh.
I always think this chapter, let's say I wrote that book about prison cell hopping, the chapter a little bit.
Yeah.
I was thinking yesterday, I said, I think I need to say this in a tweet. That's how I started. Right?
Mm.
Let me write the tweet first. And then I said, oh, the tweet will not do justice because I need to explain it. And so I said, I think I should make it a Facebook post. So, and now my only goal, I'm not interested in the chapter yet. I'm just saying, a tweet to a Facebook post. Let me write that. And then I said, oh, Facebook post. Oh, no, it can't be a status because it's smaller. I should make it a bigger Facebook post. Then I make it. Then I said, I need to do it in Medium. Then I showed it to a couple of friends, 4 of them who are my classmates, and said, why is this not in this book? Then it becomes a chapter in the book, right?
Right.
So,
Right. So the thing to learn from that is you are looking at the minimum viable milestone,
yes,
achieve that, and then see what the possibility is if it go and fit into a bigger story or something. But
exactly.
but it should not be stopped midway. The idea should have its logical conclusion, isn't it?
Exactly. And also, there are people who will push me. I have mentors and I have friends and everybody. So I'm always constantly in touch with people to say, what could we do with this? And then somebody is saying, and I immediately become a student. When somebody gives me an idea, whoever they are, it could be my son or anybody, I immediately become really stop thinking I know everything because I wear the beginner's mindset hat.
Right.
And then I say, I want to learn. What did you mean by this?
Got it.
And I become extremely curious.
Excellent. We are, yeah, so we have another 10 minutes. So I'll quickly go through the next set of questions. Yeah, so you said stories, right? So the one thing that I really liked about the book was you said that your story should you should create a story which should be published in New York Times. It should be published worthy in New York Times. Remember, you said that. I'm
Yeah,
not.
I say that if you are accomplishing something good, if you think that it should be so good, like I come from a journalistic background. You know that my first job was as a journalist.
That's correct.
I know that for the something to get into the newspapers, there has to be it has to be exceptional.
Got it.
If it is ordinary, they don't print it, right?
Right.
If you had a normal, ordinary day, you
Right.
can make news about it.
That's correct. Yes.
So if you say, let me do something that is worthy, it may not be published in the front page of New York Times or Washington Journal, Wall Street Journal or anything, but should I do something that is worthy of it?
Right.
Then automatically you raise the bar, isn't it? You say, oh, at this level, nobody will cover me. But
True.
whether you get covered or not, but if you aim for it, what you will become will be very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. So I actually was going through the list of questions. I had close to 10 questions. We have exhausted all the 10 questions. I just want to open up to you. If you have any concluding thoughts to share with our audience, you might pick anything from your book, or maybe if you have something in your mind that you'd like to share to our audience, especially in uh, post-COVID times, on how to navigate this uncertainty, that will be great.
See, I will share a couple of things, Ravi. So this is, I already said we are in a connected world. So there is overstimulation that is there. So it is our duty to just moderate how much you take that will create fear inside your head, or how much you say, you know what, today's fear quota is over. I'm not worried about anything. Like sometimes people end up watching the news, and first of all, news people have no other work anyway to keep adding sensation. You want
And this is coming from Rajesh, who has been a journalist. So
yeah,
he's not just shooting from his mouth, but he's actually saying this from experience, because Rajesh's first job was as a journalist. Yeah.
I was the sensation manufacturing agent. So I was there, I was part of the clan, and then I know exactly how to do it. I can create drama right now if I want in an instant. But if you don't create drama, think about their life, Ravi. But they need readers. So they can get readers with some inspirational stuff. There are some things that can happen. But it's easier to get readers by creating fear and drama and sensation, because now we are perturbed, we want more of it, and then it's like a vicious cycle. So why we have to avoid it is that if you look for problems or if you look for possibilities, you will find either of them. But what you look for determines where you will go, right? If you say, if we both start we continue the segment and say, we start talking about how bad the situation is, really, really, really bad. And you will say, yes, Rajesh, it is really bad. I saw um, there's so many people laid off and everything. And automatically, first of all, our both of our moods will go tank immediately, right? And then whoever is watching, poor souls, their mood will also tank. And their family members, they will say, why is this person so upset? Their mood will tank. We'll just create a
Downward.
of sympathy waves, right? But at the same time, we start thinking, you know, what this is happening. Let's look at possibilities. Like for example, I was looking at some things, like there are some lectures that were only uh, localized. Like for example, University of Chicago Booth School of Business, they have an annual lecture, and it's only for the alumni. But with COVID, no alumni can come to Chicago Booth School. So it was Raghuram Rajan, the former RBI governor. The whole thing was live streamed.
Ah,
What is the possibility? I'm not a Booth School alumni. I would never have gone there. And now I take it, and I get the same privilege as a Booth School alumni at no cost. I just click a button. It's a new possibility, isn't it? And then there are so many galas that are happening that are virtual. You want to make a difference, you just attend a virtual gala. Like there's so many things like Techstars, the demo day for Techstars, completely virtual. I didn't have to go anywhere. I just click a button and I watch all the pictures of the 10 best companies. So you look at the possibilities, there are plenty of them.
Right.
But if you want to have an excuse
Right.
for inaction, then it's simple. You just look for problems. Then you have an excuse for inaction. If you want an inspiration for action, there are enough possibilities there. Does that make sense?
That completely makes sense. And as I said, in reality, we might have covered just 15% of the book, Rajesh's book, 6 Feet World.
It's
But
a 6 foot world. We change from feet to foot.
6 Foot World, sorry. So we might have just covered 15% of the book, but a lot more is there in the book that you could get access to once you get a copy of the book. So you can visit 6-foot.world, right? That's how it
No,
is.
6 foot.world. No hyphen. 6 foot.world.
6foot.world to get yourself a copy. And again, Rajesh, thank you for making this happen, because as I said, I was not planning to make this live, and I'm very, very happy to see so many questions and comments, and people have been just sharing your quotes. So, and especially Ranjit Tai, I think you met Ranjit, he's my friend.
He's
Uh,
amazing. So very good. We can answer some questions if you want. We can make it live.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to have any questions for Rajesh, since we are ending, I should have made this announcement much earlier. But they're all re-quoting some of the quotable quotes that you shared. Ranjit says the watch analogy, where you said both the watches show the same time, was quite funny. Pranita says the good example was that of bottled water having gold particles for the rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mostly they all have nice things to say. But next time, Rajesh, when we plan to do something, let's announce this in advance so people are ready with their questions, and I'm ready with the questions. But I also am very, very. I get excited whenever something is not planned, because better things emerge out of this.
It's exactly the reason I said, "Hey, let's go live," because now it was a spontaneous conversation. We had some questions,
Yeah,
but we improvised because life is all about improvisation. If you think
exactly.
of right,
It's not about navigating with a map in hand, but
yes.
getting in a new terrain, and I'm learning more as I with you. Ranjit has asked something out of box. He says that, Rajesh, who is your role model?
See,
Uh,
so many teachers, Ranjit. The reason is I want to pick one or two of them, but I always think that there's so much to learn from everyone. There are enough people. Suppose I met Ranjit for breakfast, and I was fascinated with what he has done in terms of events. I think you both worked together before,
oh
right?
yes,
So now, when it comes to the events, he will be my role model. It's like that, isn't it? So there is no one person who will say he's all encompassing because, like, for example, when it comes to entrepreneurship, my mentor Desh Deshpande is definitely my role model because the way he built $3 billion companies. How can it? It's impossible. There are other people, but somebody I know who has done it is him, and the kind of life he leads with his wife Jayshree ji, it's an amazing thing because he has a complete life both in the business world and in the personal world. I i just am fascinated by it, but I look at everything like if it comes to writing, I have some role models there, right? Like when it comes to relationship building, I have some role models there. So I'm always learning because it never ends. You just have to have the beginner's mindset always on.
that's correct. Yeah, I'm sure, because you have such a wide network of people around you. There cannot be one person who is your role model. There, I'm sure that you have, for every facet of your life, there is somebody that you want to model their behavior and learn from them. But
Yeah.
as I said, I'm again, thank you, Rajesh, for your precious time, and I'm sure my audience would benefit from this conversation. I'm going to stream this, not stream, but actually upload this onto my YouTube video as well, channel as well, for all the other audience to see. And all the best for your book. And again, I repeat, for the audience who are listening, if you want to get a copy of the book, go to 6foot.world and you can get a copy from there. Thanks, Rajesh. Thanks for your time again.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye.